presenter. Our second presenter is Rose. Rose is Rose Kema. Rose is a registered social worker with many years of experience at the Gloucestershire County Council. Rose is currently serving as a children's home manager. She is passionate about educating and supporting parents especially from the BAME communities in raising their children in the UK. And that is one of the key, as Chichi has said, there's a lot, there's quite a lot. Then we have ones that we are from the BAME community. We are Black African, Black Asian, and we sing the whole same tune when we are actually raising kids, because we learn from what we were taught or how we were raised from home. So Rose is here to give us the aid to help us to do our parenting jobs in the UK. So over to you, Rose. Thank you.
Oh, what can I say? Thank you so much for organizing this. Really, really beautiful. When Pastor Bokala, she's my classmate, reached me out and said, Rose, this is what I want to do. We are planning to do this, and I want you on board because I know we've been having chats. And I was like, oh, that's a good thing. I've always been saying it, but I've not really come out in such a group to really give a presentation. But it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And so I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. And thank you all for saying to hear from me. I'll share my own experience, what I have learned over the years staying in the UK for how many years now, and what I see on the job. So I'm also going to be mindful as a registered social worker, what I'll be sharing is tips, something that we should be aware of how the UK system function in terms of parenting and how social services gets involved into our service. So with that said, I think I shared my slides just because it was a little bit, we were trying to see that I get them right. So Sister Bokola, if you can share my slide, I don't know who has them. So my presentation is quite different from what Sister Pinash has already shared. She touched a lot on what I'm going to be touching about in terms of safeguarding. Not only safeguarding, but I've put the safeguarding topic because it's something that is really affecting us in the UK. And trust me, this is something that I wrote on one of my on my assignment. I was so passionate about it, of something that I experienced at work, and I had to change my assignment to write on this topic. And even though at the time I did not have the power to do anything, but I went deeper to search on it. So safeguarding is really, really important in terms of our BMA community in the UK. We have a lot to go through and understand about this system. So I'll touch on bits and bits and share my experience on what this entails in the UK. Next slide, please. So first of all, first of all, we need to understand the system. So what is safeguarding, and what the social services are working on is the document called Working Together, which is, that's the frame, the document, the government document that social services work together. Everything is on it's on the government website. If you just Google it, you will have that document. And the purpose for that document, for professionals and for everyone working with children. And first of all, let me say this clearly. UK and Western countries are very, very, how would I put it? Children, they come first. Everything in this country, the children come first. No matter what you do, you need to remember the children come first. Everything you're doing with your child, that child comes first. So they have those, we're working together. The aim is to prevent and protect children from maltreatment. That could be harm, abuse, and neglect. I'll touch on that later. Preventing impairment of children's health and development. So that comes under health services. So if you're missing appointments, you're not checking appointments, vaccines for your children, all those things build up into making a story for social services if something comes up. Ensuring that children grow up in circumstances consistent with provision of safe and effective care. So basic care of what children should have. Like Sister Pino said, we are coming from a generation where our parents have done things and we've learned from our parents. In particular, we have all learned, but also we are now in a different century, which is completely different. And internet is taking on the role of parenting from us. If we are not going to parent our children, social media is going to do it for us. And I will touch on that a little bit. Taking action to enable all children to have the best outcomes. So under this document, this government document, that is a primary aim and the goal for children in the UK. So you're looking at that, that is what you should be thinking about, how I'm raising my children, how I'm parenting the children. And it's more from my age group that I've come across more where I have experiences between the ages of, let's say, 5 to 15 years old. That age group is really, really important. That's where we miss them. If we miss our children from that age group, then they are lost in the system. They are lost. Next slide, please. So I did the difference between safeguarding and child protection. So before going to child protection area, there is in social services, there's what they call children in need, which I missed over, but I'm going to explain that. So children in need in this country is any child who needs a service. So for example, you are struggling with a child who has disability or has been diagnosed with something or some illness, and you're able to provide for that child, you need some help. Social services can help with that, and they will put that child on that children in need plan, which means they will provide a service for that child to help you and that child. So those are children in need. So it's different from safeguarding and child protection. So safeguarding comes in only when we do something that does not collaborate with the norms and the documents and the whatever we have in children's services. So that's where our discipline comes in, that Sister Pinash has talked about. In terms of discipline, that is where we are looking at safeguarding. So what is discipline and what type of discipline? That comes under abuse. We have different forms of abuse. We have neglect is number one, physical abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence. So all this abuse where children are involved, that is where children's services will come under safeguarding. Safeguarding means they will kind of investigate that problem to see if that child is in immediate harm or danger. So they would determine that, is this child in immediate harm or danger? Or for example, I'll give you an example where you smack your child and you somehow, we have long nails. So you take a situation where if a parent pull a phone from their child with their long nails and their nails crush them and the child went to school. I'm just giving an example now, but there are other examples. And the child went to school and the child showed, oh, see, my mom finger scratched me here. And from there, then the teachers want to know what happened, what incident led to that scratching of the neck. And they will intrude. It's a small child. This child is just saying what has happened. But the question that the probing questions that will come up to know exactly what is happening in that home will follow. And from what they will get from that child, they are obliged by every obligation to make a phone call to social services. We have had a disclosure from this child, this is what they will say. And that referral goes in. And then you are involved with social services. Those are just some small example. We might just think, oh, it's a fingernail. No. But when they come to your house, that's when other things will unveil, which you didn't want to know. Other things will unveil. So it's just those simple things. The child protection is the one that when they have seen the investigation of child safeguarding. Child protection is when they've determined, after carrying out their investigation, they will determine to say this child is under significant harm, which means we have to do something as a local authority. This child is under significant harm. If we don't do something, something will happen to this child. We all know the case of Victoria Columbia. I don't know if some of you know it. That is where child protection will come in. They will convene a meeting and they'll put this child on child protection, which means the visit has to be taken every 10 days to your house to see the child wherever they are, at school and at home. So we should know the difference between the child protection and the safeguarding. The safeguarding is preventing the harm before it happens. While child protection is the harm has happened, but we need to prevent further harm. So that's the difference. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. With the safeguarding principles, these are the principles that govern UK government in terms of children's services. So the first thing, I know a lot, we often hear, Sister Pinesh has already said that, empowerment, protection, prevention, proportionality is where we come in. So if you're in terms of discipline your child, you should think of proportionality. Is that punishment proportionate? Does that punishment warrant, does what your child has done warrant the punishment you're giving to your child? That's the meaning of, how they look at that proportionality. You should be looking at that. And partnership, which means they will be working with every services involved. So they will be working with health services, GP, schools, every single person involved for that child to get information. And accountability is where we are held accountable of our actions. We are held accountable of our actions, what we have done to that child. And accountability doesn't only go to the parents, it goes to the professionals as well. It goes to the professionals. If child tells you this has happened, and you as a professional, you do not take action of that, you will be held accountable for it. And as parents, we are held accountable for our behaviors and for our actions. So that's the 6 main principles that are guiding children's services in terms of in the UK. If I have the next slide, please. The rule of social services, I cannot say all this without saying the rules of social services. The main rule for social services is to support families and protect children from harm. Simple. There is no other role you will go around and say the main thing is to make sure families are supported, families which are struggling, families who are seeking for help. They say knowledge is power. So this forum or this kind of environment is where you get more information, you get knowledge, and you share the knowledge. If you don't have the information, you won't be able to seek that help. There's so many help in this country, so many things, but if you don't know, you don't know. So the main thing for social services is to support families. The first thing is not to just go and take your child. No, they will try as much as possible, look what is happening in the family and see where they can put support. Unless that child is in significant harm or immediate danger, that's when the drastic measures of safeguarding and child protection will come in. But the first instance of you getting involved with social services, the aim is to support and protect the children. And then give early interventions to make sure everybody is supported. We come from different cultures, which is very strange. When I first came to this country, I found everything strange. That's 20 years ago. And I used to ask myself, what type of a country is this? But I was always open to learn, reading stuff and looking at things. And when I had my first son, it was a big challenge for me. I had no parents, no mother, no father, no sister. And I'm looking at this child, what am I going to do with you? And this made me a lot to go into social care and to work with children, because I wanted to know more and I wanted to know about the system, how the system operates. So further, I went into deep diving and did all whatever. But is that curiosity for us to make sure we know. Now, internet is very open. You can search anything on the internet if you're not sure. Just type up a word and various things will come up. Consequently, they will come up and you will be able to find this information. Back in the day, there was not a lot of information, but now there is so much in the internet that you can have support with and just reaching out to people that you come across. The next slide, please. So this is the legal framework, what children's services use, the Children's Act, which was amended in 2004. It's still the same, it's just very little things that was amended. The main act of the UK is Children's Act 1989. And then you have the Working Together to Safeguard Children 2018. So all these documents, they'll outline the legal responsibilities of the parents, professionals, and local authority. So we all have responsibilities under these frameworks. We all have responsibilities as parents, as professionals, as local authorities in the UK to make sure children are safe, are living in conducive environment, and are free from harm. So these documents, if you Google them, you will get them straight away from government website. Can I have the next one? So I put this slide in terms of BMA in the UK, because like I said, it's a topic that I'm very passionate about. And what this slide is telling me, the main abuse that makes family from BMA families like us into social services is more physical and emotional abuse. And under those two, you have the physical, which is, we call its term as physical chastisement. So we used to grow up with slapping, hitting, shaking, even shaking a baby. You hold your baby, you shake it. What have I done? Those things are considered as abuse because it's physical. You're physically handling that child. So all of that is classed under physical chastisement. Now, physical chastisement is where we are using the canes. We grew up with canes, isn't it? Whippings, and they do it in schools and all that. Here is not allowed. So anything that is intentional in causing harm to a child, that is cause physical abuse, and that the first thing they'll go to that is it will cross the matter of safeguarding and it will go straight to child protection. So we just say our parents hit us or somebody hits up. I remember my uncle used to put my young brother on top of the zinc and whip him on the zinc. And you look, when I look at those things now, you look at those things and I'm like, can you do that again? No, you can't, because of the system where we grew up. So the physical discipline is more the things that we are doing, slapping of children and just using objects. You're using objects to harm a child, to make sure that child feel pain. The notion is, I want to correct that behavior. The notion of us using physical abuse is correcting the behavior. But on the other side, we are inflicting pain on the child. And in the UK, that is not allowed. So I'll go to the next slide where we talk about the next slide. This slide is where I've looked at the issue, the factors that influence our behaviors of how we treat our children. So first of all, we have a big issue of our cultural beliefs and practices. That is the number one thing that we find ourselves, we don't want to change. Our beliefs is our belief. Strict discipline means you're correcting a child, you're making them understand what you want them to do. The practice of FGM, we are all aware of that. But the main barrier of us coming into social services and making sure we are involved in this, the cultural beliefs of discipline is a big thing. If we can shift away from it a little bit, change it in the other way. And I'm sure we are all very, very good parents, but it's because of what we've grown up with. To come out from that, our cultural beliefs to say the only way to correct a child is by beating or by caning them, physically whipping them. That is where we have the big problem. Another thing is disability. I've come across a lot of people with disability. They have children who have disability. We are not accepting that disability. We don't want to accept that our children my child has a disability. Because of what? Shame, stigma. We are ashamed to tell our families. For example, you came here and you've given birth to a child, and that child has disability. You are ashamed to tell your parents back home to say my child has a disability, and you are struggling with this child at home. You don't understand, first of all, what disability it is, and you're trying to contain this child in the house. That is a recipe for abuse, because you're going to be doing things that are going to put that child in danger. You are harming that child unknowingly, that you're harming her, because you're going to be doing it. You want to treat that child as a normal child. Yes, that child is a normal child. However, that child has another layer on top of them. It's not by your meanings, by your way of thinking. Is your normal child, yes, but they have another layer on top of them. And if you don't understand that layer that they have, you are going to be we treat them as normal children. You want them to do things that every other child is doing, but they are not capable mentally, physically, and emotionally, cognitively as well. They can't do it, but you're expecting them to do it in terms of that. And the worst one is autism. We don't understand autism. We don't understand autism and learning disability. These are things that we don't understand, and it's putting us in a lot of problems, because you're thinking your child is naughty, or you're thinking your child is lazy, or you're thinking your child is just the dirt words, your child is a moron. I've heard people say you're just a moron. But it's a disability that is in there. First of all, you have to get support to get it diagnosed for learning disability or autism. And if you're not going out for that support, you're treating this child the same way, which is not the level of support that child needs. This disability a lot puts us with social services a lot. Understanding disability. Just lack of awareness as well, like I said, in terms of parenting, we need to understand our children, who they are and what we expect from them. And someone who has also experienced racism and discrimination, which this mostly highly contributes to stress and mental health issues, which relates to indirect increase of abuse. Because if you're stressed in you, and you've got an autistic child, what are you going to do? That autistic child is doing something that you don't like, but you don't understand that that child is autistic, and you are also going to stress mentally. You're likely you're going to mishandle that child and cause harm to that child, because both of you are not in the same page. I found also that the research in the UK, most people, high percentage of people, we tend to live in more socioeconomically disadvantaged areas, which they call deprived areas. So council estates. So if you're living in council estates, Caucasians live in council estates as well. And like Sister Pina said, with all the wisdom in terms of praying every day for your child, and also making sure you're instilling those values, those good morals, those good values into your child, living in such an environment, if you're telling your child to do something that you are not doing, and we need to remember, I always use this word, children are copycats, because they'll copy what they see, they copy what they hear, they copy what they have. Children are copycats, so they will copy anything. You might think you're doing something, your child is not copying. Oh, trust me 100%, they are copying. So when you're copying those things and you expect them to do something which you yourself you're not doing, they'll ask you question. I used to be in a my son used to be in a position where you ask you, especially the age of 5, 6, that's the time where they start asking you why, mommy, why? Everything you said them not to do, they'll ask you why, and you have to respond to that. You have to give an explanation, because if you don't give an explanation, you try to swerve away from that question. At some point again, that question of why will come in because you've not answered that question. So it's truthfully learning to know how to respond to question. I had a friend who I was with in uni some time ago, and she was in the kitchen cooking, and the young boy she had a young boy in the living room, 6 years old, and he was watching TV, and mom is in the kitchen cooking. Is from Africa, and before she knew it, the boy has changed channel and put on a different channel, and that channel mom did not know what they were watching, and the different channel came up and pornography, and they were kissing. And he ran into the kitchen and asked mommy, come on, come and see. Two men are kissing. And he asked the mom, why are they kissing? They are men, they are not women. It's man and woman. And the mom just froze. She froze in the incident. She didn't know what to respond. The child has already seen it. And now this woman doesn't know how to respond. She was doing social work at the time as well. She doesn't know how to respond to this question. And she tried to deviate for this question. And the child said, you've not answered me, mommy. He was only 6. But mom did not answer him. 2 days later, and he reminded the mom, you remember that day I asked you why 2 men are kissing? You didn't tell me. You have to know how to answer those kind of questions because you will get it. Surprisingly, and that it stays for that child. It stays. Yeah. So simple, small things that comes up. Can I have the next slide, please? So I've put there CP. CP just means child protection. So I mentioned child protection is the extreme, so it's a higher level of safeguarding. So where the child where it is determined that child is in significant harm, that's where it goes to child protection. So in terms of neglect, mostly what the BME community goes into is mostly neglect and emotional. Those are the two that mainly take us to that level. And the physical chastisement is a little bit, but it's very high up there as well. But the two emotional ones, which is more of knowing your children's emotional, in terms of the words you're using, like Sister Pina said, emotionally, what you're using, how you're describing them, what you're saying to them. Words are powerful. So powerful, like they make them feel worthless, unloved, and inadequate, comparing them. Why can't you do? Yeah, your friend is doing that. Those emotional words I've seen between the age of 9 to 15, the emotional side of it is huge on our children. It's huge because that's where they start to look at their identity. They try to understand who they are in the first place, what they are. This is who I am in my house. And at the same time, these words are also, they face it outside. They face this word outside. So if they are hearing this word at home and they still hear it outside, it just drains them and their minds become clouded where they don't know who they are, what they don't know their identity. It's very, very devastating in terms of where we are in social services in the UK. I think that understanding of the various forms of abuse, us knowing them in the first place and having the knowledge and the way to divert from it is going to help us a lot in good parenting, because There is nobody who was born to be an expert as a parent. We all learn from it. No one is born an expert. It's a school. I call it a school that never ends. Because even you have a 25-year-old boy or a 25-year-old child or man, because after 18, they are adults, they will still come to you for help. They will still come to you for questions. They will still come to you for answers. They will still come to you with regards to support, for direction, no matter where they are. I have a 30-year-old brother. He still comes to me. He still comes to me. So they will still come. It takes really long time. It's a school that never ends until you cannot be complacent in terms of parenting. And parenting is a very, very broad topic. We all parents differently, but it's knowing the right way of doing it and also where we are. We need to remember we are not back in Nigeria, we are not back in Cameroon, we are not back in Ghana, we are in the UK. So you're going to follow the norms and the rules of UK in terms of making sure the child welfare is met. Can I have the next slide, Sister Pilofa? Right, we regards to that, I brought this one up, and this is from research that I did in terms of my assignment and everything that I've researched. These are it's not all, these are some of the effects, consequences that our children suffer from the abuse that they go through. You see a child start getting angry, start getting depressed. They will not tell you they are depressed. They will never tell you they are depressed, but it's you as a parent to recognize those signs. Oh, he used to talk. Why is he not talking now? He used to sit down with downstairs to watch movie. Now he's locking himself in his bedroom. What's happening? Why is it that when you ask him something, he keeps on shaking or he's twitching? When you start seeing some signs, they're always fidgeting. That's anxiety. If we learn all these words and then we look at our children, we will know how to pick these clues to say our child is struggling, our child is struggling. And with social media, like I said, social media will parent our children for us if we don't. The rate of suicide and thoughts is up there, very high for young children. And that is a worry. A very, very big worry in the country, not just for Caucasians, for all children. The rate of suicide is very high. There was a case that went in, I think, last year, just before, after COVID, a young boy from London. He traveled and he was studying in Oxford. He had a place to study in Oxford. And he was in uni and the parents are in London. And he's never been away from home. He's living alone. He doesn't have any friend. He felt there was no one there for him. The friends were rejecting. He was not connecting with other friends around in where he was staying. And he just went, one day he just went out on a walk, put his earpiece on, and he went on to go and stroll. And that was it. He committed suicide. He didn't come back. He never came back. And this is an African child. The parents are in London. He was in Oxford. Is it something that was already building up from home before he left home? We don't know. Is it something that he was keeping? How was the family? We don't know. How come? And it was only year one, the first year in his university. So then you start asking your questions. I'm sure there was an investigation on that, and then they'll start going back to the family. How was this child at home? What was the routine, and what was the normal, as it normal for this child at home? You ask yourselves a lot of questions on that. Yeah. Poor emotional and physical development, child not performing very well, a child who was having A grades and now having C grades. What's happening? You ask yourself, what's happening? Why am I not seeing improvement? You need to dip into that child's life. You need to, like Sister Pina said, communication is key. You put yourself down and have one-to-one talk with your children, because that's the only way they will talk. If they don't talk to you, you can tell them, it's okay if you don't tell mommy. Do you want to go and tell daddy? I ask my children that if they don't want to talk to me, I said, you can tell your daddy, that's fine. I'm not going to be angry. Go and tell daddy. And it gives them another option. It doesn't mean they have to talk to only mommy or they have to only talk to daddy. No, they can talk to anyone that they feel comfortable. Sometimes I'll say, go and talk to your brother. If you feel comfortable to talk to your brother, that's fine. If you feel that, go and find. So you give them that option. Don't restrict them that they have to talk to a particular person, because you will not get the answer. You will not get what you're looking for. And you will not see those clues, because children are very smart. Though, in as much as we know our children, they will disguise, because there are so many things on the internet now. I tell you, I work in one children's home, and there was this young boy they brought in their home, and he was 14. And he said to me, Rose, I don't have ADHD. I made it up. And I'm like, what? He said, I made it up. And I said, why do you do that? You're not in a children's home. He said, yes, I made it up. I went on Google and Googled it. I Googled all the symptoms of ADHD and I presented it to the doctor. And I wrote, why did you do that? He said, because I was tired of my parents telling me I'm useless. I was tired of my parents telling me I'm stubborn, I'm everything. So he's had this in his head and he could not cope with it. And he didn't know how to tell the parents how he was feeling. Because the internet is free, it's there. He went and searched for it. He searched for the symptoms and everything, and they were pushing for it. And he presented it to the doctor, ADHD symptoms, and he was diagnosed with ADHD. But he told me in confidence to tell, he told me, Rose, I don't have ADHD. I made it up. I was shocked. I was really, really shocked. And he was 14. And he's in children's services, because before they remove you from your parents' home, you must be posing, there must be a danger at home for services, for children's services to remove you and place you to another accommodation, which means because of what they were telling him, he presented those symptoms of ADHD, because ADHD is attention deficit hyper syndrome something. So he presented those situations at home, becoming really hyper and violent. The parents could not contain him anymore. And if it comes to the point, that's where local authority comes in to save the child and to save the parents. And the next thing is to removal of that child. That's where you see children in children's home. Because something at home drastically has happened, is either to save the parents or to save that child. They will accommodate that child into a children's home. And he was accommodated in children's home. And that's a different section for Children's Act. But that was the situation. He told me, and luckily it were just two of us, and I was absolutely shocked that he Googled that. But what he said to me is, because I trust you, Rose. I see that you're very good, and I trust you. I've not told anyone that this is what I've done. Then I was not a social worker, but even if I am, what can I do? The GP, the doctors have already given this diagnosis, and this child is under the care of local authority. So it's a different level. How children can go, they can go to such an extreme. And it's really, really powerful for us to understand the children. And words, I go back to words. Words are really powerful, really powerful. Because of the words he was hearing, this is what pushed him to go and search for the symptoms and presented it to him. And the rest is history. Yeah. Can I move to the next point, please? So I think Sister Pina's touched a little bit on this. In the UK, this is a UK law. Scotland, Wales, and Jersey, they've banned smacking totally. Not acceptable. So if you go on holiday in Cornwall or holiday in Wales, You don't raise your hand like that on your child because you'll be in prison. It's not acceptable. In Scotland, the same. Jersey, the same. However, UK hasn't bounded. The government in 2023, there was a petition that went off and it was unanimously against it, that parents should have a little bit of control of their children. That's why UK hasn't banned it. Richie Sunak made it clearly that all the MPs that voted, parents should have a little bit of control of their children. Yeah. And smacking is still legal in the UK. However, smacking that causes harm, the harm can be a bruise, injury, cut, whatever, using force or physical things to smack your child. That is going to leave a mark. We should note a mark on it. Now, the catch for us, because we have dark skin, people don't always see those marks. Okay, when people go for investigation and they're checking on this, social services don't check on the child anyway. If they want to see proofs, they take the child to the doctors. They do a full examination. That's where they get the marks, wherever that marks. That is how they got Victoria Columbus, that he had 200 and something scars, is because of physical examination that they did. Even though somebody with dark color, if you smack your child, you will not see any standing mark there. But a Caucasian child or any child with light color, if you smack them, you will see your fingers there, isn't it? Like some people will slap a child until you see the fingers on the jaw. So the hindrance for us, and it is a hindrance for social services, they know that. They know that because it's difficult to determine those bruises on our children because of the complexion of our skin. But if that child happens to say, to opt and tell them, they take in the word for the child that you've done it, even though they can't see it. If the child accepted that you've done that, they will take that word, they will take the word for the child. So we should be very, very, and I've put the law there, which is section 58, provides a defense for reasonable punishment, which is undefined. Undefined means it's not concluded. It's not concluded. You can smack your child. However, if there is no reasonable justification for it, you are still going to be liable in the court. You're still going to be liable. So like Sister Evelyn said, it's a safe place. This is just information I'm giving. We should not be scared to speak out or to seek help. It's a safe space, and I'm just giving some of the things that we should be watching out for, not for us to get ourselves into those situations. So at the moment, it is still illegal, but on the other hand, we have to know that if you do it, which causes harm to the child, that reasonable adjustment will not be taken into account anymore. Yes. So yeah. I've put the various crimes that will happen under the UK law. A parent can be charged with a crime if they cause their child actual bodily harm, grievous bodily harm, or grievous bodily harm with intent. So if you call you're whipping your child with the intention of making sure they feel pain and they have this pain, then that will be taken to court. They will be charged for that. Parents will be charged for that. It's just for us to know UK laws and how we place ourselves. Thank you. Can I have the next slide? So I did some research, and I didn't put all the other groups because under child protections, the Caucasians are higher. Caucasians have more children under child protection in the UK. However, we are only a small minority in the UK, but we, in proportion of what the research shows, our percentage is still high compared to other ethnic groups. So the Caucasians have the highest level of children who are under child protection, which comes more on in neglect, sexual abuse. Those are the ones that they have more, they are taking up to the child protection plan. And for us, it's mostly emotional abuse and physical. And that we have those figures. So those figures is for us, is for emotional abuse and physical. Sexual abuse is about 1%. So the area where we have more children on child protection is physical abuse and emotional abuse, which is the white one. If we go to the next slide, you will see some statistics that I've put on there in terms of the various abuse, and that statistics is for 2024 statistics. And again, if you look at, I didn't put the Caucasians, the white British, they have the highest. So I compared us, the Asians and Asian British, Black or Black British. If you look at the percentages, you will see where we stand. We are still higher than the Asian British population in terms of those various abuses. And that is on the government website as well, on Gov UK. The publications are all there. So I will not go through that. So here are my examples, even though I've given some few examples. And because these examples are live, can I request that we stop recording on these examples? Is that okay?